up a topic that I'm sure you can probably give us more info based on your research and your experience, but there seems to be a lot of elements related to coaching that I don't know that in the general public there's a lot of understanding about the facets associated with that. We had this discussion the other day. I don't even remember who I was having the discussion with, but we were talking about the fact that people think that coaching is programming, and programming is such a small aspect of that. And it sounds like obviously your experience was with Tony. He was very organized in terms of his planning and programming, but that's a small aspect of it. Building, as you said, those cultural factors, those systems, as you said.
Yes.
Is that something that you found in coaches that tend to have more success, or as they go on, they start to build more systems?
I think once they understand that you're not just treating a physiological system in an athlete, you're training the whole person, and you've got to know the interconnectedness with their family and their social group, and then within the dynamics within the group as well. And you're right, a really effective coach generally has a good sense or understanding of what that's like, and you see that in all the sports. Like the really successful AFL coaches are very much connected to that, and they're well known for their ability to do that. And I had a terrific mentor when I was working at Deakin Uni, David Parkin. So he was sort of coaching.
He's really moved into that space, hasn't he, of coach education?
He's always been there.
Okay.
So he's been doing that for a long, long time, because he's trained as a primary teacher.
Yep.
So he understands pedagogy and learning.
Yeah, sorry to jump in. There seems to be a very strong link with coaching and teaching. Is that always been the case?
Yes.
And do you think that that's, in my mind, it seems like it's very common, because obviously one of the main aspects of coaching is teaching, whether it's physical skills or life skills or, structural things, tactics, whatever it may be. Do you think that there's a little bit lost at the moment in terms of marrying those two together?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Because we're, I think as human beings, we want to know more about the technical things, because it
seems like glamorous almost to understand.
Well, it's almost like a magic pill. Can we find that thing that's going to make the big difference? You know what I mean? But in my eyes, sure, it may help, but having a new piece of equipment or a new bit of wearable technology, it's data that helps you make decisions more than anything. I think the key to any really successful coach is that relationship with the athlete on the one-on-one basis, but then with the broader group that they're working with, and understanding that. And I think that isn't taught very well, if at all, to be honest.
What aspects of it do you think need to be taught? And what effect does it have if actually being good at being able to use those aspects?
I think probably in the early phases of coach education and development, and rightly so, you need to focus on the technical things of how to teach, the X's and O's, how to get a person from point A to point B in sprinting, for instance, and in the shortest possible time, and what are the technical elements that go into that. But to get the athlete coming back every session, it has to be an enjoyable experience for them. And if it's not, they're not going to show up, are they? So it's a bit like you guys in your practice. I mean, I probably don't think about physio treatment as being an enjoyable experience, but
the education side of it's massive. And like we spoke about this in a recent discussion with Richard Newsham-West of, he's on the education side, and we were talking about a lot of the aspects related to how you convey this message to patients, how your communication can be really valuable in terms of what you're saying and the way in which you're approaching it. And I know that we always talk about this, about the idea of, the iatrogenic effect or the nocebo effect that you get from poor communication. And we see it in sports performance all of the time. It can even be body language, like the way in which a coach communicates, the tone that they use, the way their voice is being portrayed really changes the way that's perceived. And these kind of things, I think, in more experienced coaches, from what I've seen, they're better and better and better at doing, but it's so subtle.
It is.
It is very, and Richard spoke about the idea of, the artistic side of healthcare, but I think this is the huge part of coaching that maybe doesn't get discussed, yet it's so high in terms of, its EQ side of things. And I don't think this is a controversial question, but I think it would be interesting to get your answer to this. Is what, like, in my mind, I think coaching is highly disrespected by a lot of other support professions around coaches, even in high performance settings, right?
Yep.
What do you think that is, given that a lot of these people actually are really well credentialed in lots of aspects, not only their coaching, but all of the areas around it?
I think, and I've got a great example here. I won't mention any names, but I had a PhD student who was, basically, when I first started at VU, she was handed to me, and their particular project was around to do with the biomechanics of sprinting, and I said to them, well, and who have you spoken to? And they said, coaches, and I asked them straight away, well, what did they say? What do they think? And the first thing they did is they just rolled their eyes. This is the head, the biomechanists and so on. They go, oh, God, bloody coaches, And I said, well, there's your problem right at the start. Is, and we said straight up, you're being very paternalistic. You know more than the coaches, don't you? They go, oh, yeah, we really do. And I said, well, that's the problem.